What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Garden Life podcast. We are the Duff and Dax.
So we're on a journey of discovering what it means to live whole spirit, soul, and body.
So listen along, watch us, and enjoy the journey. Well, hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Episode 5.
We're so excited for this episode. I actually believe this is going to be our best episode yet.
In our eyes, or the viewers' hearts.
Both, hopefully.
Okay, fantastic.
Hopefully both. And hopefully that's just always the case. Hopefully we don't get worse, you know?
No, they're always going to get better. Come on.
But the reason I'm excited about
Let's
this
have a little faith.
is we're going to start getting into the area of spirit. We've talked about body a lot. We've talked about soul last week. So we're gonna kind of scratch the surface here of spirit, but we want to start with just our stories of basically how we ended up in the same place in California, how we navigated our relationship of meeting, getting engaged, getting married within 6 months, was it? So how are we able to navigate that with confidence, all this stuff we're going to discuss.
So as you know, pretty much everything we talk about is either to do with spirit, soul, or body.
Yep.
We haven't really got into the first one. We have touched on it, but I am excited. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about spirit, really just scratching the surface with us. But it is the foundation of garden life.
Right.
So we do
want
to talk about it. And just before we get into it, so what we want to do today is we want to share our stories. We have awesome stories from before we met, but we really want to share how we met, how that was influenced by God, and just our story of meeting is crazy and cool. So we hope you guys really enjoy kind of really our favorite parts. But also, please keep listening. Just want to say, I'm a normal girl from Dublin, Ireland. I used to live in Dundrum, okay? Right beside Ballantyre. I'm a normal girl. And literally, spirit, like this whole thing we're about to talk about, God, spirit, it all just changed my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, my entire life.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the whole point of even why we waited till episode 5 to kind of scratch the surface of spirit is like, we actually want to build equity with the listeners. We actually want you to hear us, understand our heart, that we're not trying to push anything. We hope that we come across authentic. We just want to share our experiences.
Yeah.
I feel like when it comes to this area of God or religion, I feel like most of the time, people that are turned off by it are actually met with just that. They're met with religion.
Yeah.
They're met with a bunch of rules, pretty much met with you suck at life. You'll never be good enough, and you have to earn God's love and all this stuff where it's just like, this is really depressing.
Yeah.
Why would I want to follow that? So that's not what we believe at all. We hope that you don't feel an ounce of religion from us.
So that might be a little confusing. People might be like, what do you mean you're not religious? Like, I thought you guys were Christians. You're talking about that guy God, right? Yes, we are Christians. The traditional way of looking at religion, unfortunately, has just been skewed and just it's just not that nice. Like, it's funny because where I'm from in Ireland, like I'm sure anyone listening would agree, would love some comments. In Ireland, you're either Protestant or Catholic. You're either going to say that, or at least you're going to say, I was brought up Protestant or Catholic, or, well, my family was Protestant or Catholic, but like, I didn't. But it's funny because even if you're Protestant or Catholic, you might not even necessarily believe in God. Which is funny, I'm sure, for you to hear, like for Americans to hear, that's so unusual. So it's more from like our upbringing, where we were brought up. It's more culture. So I just feel like the word religion, it just isn't really a good stamp for us. Yes, we are Christians. We believe in God.
Yeah.
But today we want to tell our story that, well, hopefully you'll see that God is real, because I want to tell you how do we know for ourselves and why do we believe that God is real?
Mm-hmm. And we believe that the best way to explain that is through experiences, through our stories.
Through being real.
Yeah. So,
And we'll let you guys see what you think.
yeah. So we're going to get into it. Like we said, this is our crazy story of like, how do we even navigate dating, married that fast with confidence, not go crazy. So everybody buckle up.
Blake went a little crazy.
It was a little crazy. So let's start this story with separately, how do we both end up in the same school in California?
Yeah.
So as some of you might know, I grew up in a town called Amarillo, Texas. Mm-hmm. I actually worked at a church there for about 7 years. Probably about the last 2 years of being there, I really just struggled with just being discontent. I felt like there has to be more to this whole thing. I feel like I was supposed to go out and experience more. I basically grew up in this town, lived here for a long time. I actually thought I would stay at this church for the rest of my life, I guess, and then just become one of the pastors there.
Right.
Like that's just what you do. You just stay there, kind of work up and become one of the pastors at the church you're a part of. But there was just something in me that felt like, no, that's not for me. Like there's more. I just kept hearing this word more when I would think about it. So oftentimes what I do is like I'll journal and I'll like talk to God about whatever I'm going through. Like I'm so frustrated, can't figure out why I'm frustrated, and I'll just journal, and then it'll almost be like he's writing through me. I'll just start getting
revelation.
Yeah, I'll just start writing stuff that I'm like, it just feels like, oh wow, now I have a whole new perspective on what I was going through.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was journaling, I was writing, I was praying like, okay, God, if I'm not meant to be here, then where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
And I literally heard nothing, got nothing. And it was just like, okay, if you're not telling me to, what am I supposed to do? Like, I was just looking for like, go and do this.
Looking for a big sign.
Yeah. And it just wasn't coming. And so like after about a week of doing that, finally, again, praying, journaling, asking God for direction. And I just wrote this down, and it said, you can stay here for the rest of your life and I will bless you. But there's going to be a lid on what I can do. And as soon as I wrote that, it was like just so much peace just came over me of like, first of all, if I never did anything else, if I just stayed there, God was going to stay with me, right, and he was going to bless me. This is what he was saying. But hey, I've heard you and there is so much more for you. So if you'll just trust me, more's coming.
That's so crazy that you had the choice. Like, was that comforting or daunting?
Well, for me, I grew up in religion of like God tells you what to do and like you have to follow his every rule and all this stuff. So it was almost like I was hoping he would just tell me what to do so I could be like, yes, sir.
Right.
And then when he comes in and says like, hey, whatever you want to do, I'm with you, was like, man, whatever I choose, he just wants to be with me. But he's like, I've heard you talk about you're wanting more, right, and I can give you that. And so it was literally like, I wrote that down and I was like, okay, I want the more. I don't want there to be a lid on my life. I want whatever it is.
That's good.
And it was like,
so what'd you do?
I was like, okay, well, what is that? And I had not even like a few days later, maybe a week later, a friend of mine kind of knew I was navigating this and sent me this school and was like, hey, was just looking at this, just reading about this school, felt like I should send it to you. Could be a good option. And I was like, okay. And as soon as I looked up the school, read about it, I was like, this is exactly what I want. Yeah. Like, I want to know how other people hear God, how they experience him. And it was like,
just for some context, in case someone didn't listen to our first episode,
yeah,
this is a ministry school in Redding, California. This is basically where we met.
yeah. And
Just for
so
context.
it was like this school was going to help me meet people. I think like 40% of the school is international.
Yeah.
Like I've been stuck in the same country town for my whole life. Like the fact that people live a normal life in Ireland, like never thought about it.
Uncultured.
Couldn't think about it. And so it was like, that's how small minded I was. And I was like, I want to know what else is going on in this world. I want to be a part of whatever else is going on in this world. And so as soon as I read about the school, I was like, this is it. Like, I want to be around more people, different cultures, and I just want to learn how other people see life.
It's good.
So I just said yes and literally applied for the school, got accepted, and I think it was like 4 months later I was there.
I think it was even closer.
It may have been 3. It was crazy.
Anyway, within a couple of months.
Yeah.
Okay, so my story's a little different, same-ish.
Yeah.
But kind of picks up from where we left off in episode 1. So I leave Australia, I go home to Ireland. I'm in Ireland for a while. I get plugged into a church called Open Arms Church that is in Leopardstown. Plug. It's an awesome church. So I ended up going home, being part of that, and I'd always listened to Bethel music. So as you know, Bethel is a church in Redding, California. We went to their ministry school, but they have worship music, really, really good music. So I'd always listen to it, and for some reason, when I'd be sitting in church or just going about my week for those couple of months, I just kept feeling Bethel at the tip of my tongue. Like, all I wanted to talk about was Bethel. Like, I messaged everyone that had gone there. I met up with people for coffees in Ireland that had gone to this ministry school. So I decided to walk up to my pastor, and I just said to my pastor, I was like, do you know anything about Bethel? I think I'm going to go. I don't even think I was thinking of the ministry school. I was like, maybe there's a job. Like, what happens? How do we do this? How do we get to Bethel? Because I'm going to go. And he said, I don't really know anyone in Bethel, but I know a pastor up north in Belfast who actually takes third-year interns from Bethel. It can be a 3-year course, and brings them to Ireland. He had great connections. So I got his number, and again, I just kind of felt in my spirit like, give it a couple of weeks to call him. Don't call him yet. And it was really hard for me because of my personality is go, go, go. So a couple of weeks later, it's a Monday morning. It feels like the right day. So I give him a call and I say, hey, I think I'm going to go to Bethel. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And he said, before you go for the school, I always recommend visiting first to make sure this is what you want to do. I'm going in about a month's time with a crew of people from my church, and I think you're meant to come. We have one or two spots available. A couple of people pulled out over this weekend.
Crazy.
And I was like, yes, I'm coming. I literally booked my flights on Aer Lingus and flew into San Fran, drove 3 hours to up to Redding in California, and spent a week there. It was one of the best weeks of my life. And as we're driving up, kind of, this is a way that, again, might sound hard to get your head around, but as we're driving up the driveway to Bethel, it's a big driveway, I just heard God say, you will be here for many years. So I kind of knew then, like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be for a while. So I went home to Ireland, I applied for the school, and I got accepted. So then I arrive as well in August. So we both kind of had our own journey of God speaking to us.
So explain, like, what you mean by, like, you heard God say you'd be here for many years. Like, what is that to you?
Yeah. So I guess my whole life, it started when I was in my teens, like whenever I would feel like sad or emotional, kind of similar to what you were saying, but I would usually journal. I think we called it like your diary back home, like you write in your diary. So I'd be writing in my diary and I'd be like, I'm so sad, I feel lonely. And then it's like God would just speak to me, the comforter. I would feel this comfort blanket over me, just kind of felt to me like someone's talking to me, and he would just say, like, You're not alone. I'm with you. I've created you for a purpose. I'm always going to be here for you. So it was always this still comforting voice. And it was very clear.
Yeah.
So when we're driving up this driveway and I just feel, I hear like it's almost,
in your
it's,
spirit.
yeah, it's like my voice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Vicky's voice, but it's like, I wouldn't have said that.
Right. Exactly.
Like, you're going to be here for many years. And I was like, okay, sure.
It was true.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's perfect into, well, how the heck is that possible for you to be here for many years when you're on a M1 visa?
Maybe.
A school visa?
Well done, I think that's it. Yeah.
So like currently that really isn't possible.
Right.
For you to be in America for many years.
Yeah.
So
have to get a job or marry
this
someone,
is this is where it gets very interesting. Vicky and I meet 2 weeks into school. Crazy. We haven't really told that story, but I used to work at a boxing gym in America, and when I got to Reading, I was like, man, I'd love to just do some boxing workouts because I got a little heavier. And so I was like, need to get back in shape. Couldn't find a place. And then they add us all to this Facebook group, the first year students. And I see this girl, or I added her before was the thing. Yeah.
You've been stalking me.
Anyway, she posts like,
I put up
don't
on,
you at?
This was the first time I ever did a Facebook story. I don't know if I even knew what they were back then. I put up a Facebook story saying, do you know anywhere that you can box in Reading?
That's it.
And you write back straight
and
away.
I'm like, crazy. But
he had his eyes on me. He's not telling you the full
I've
truth.
looked through her photos before this. But I was like, I was seriously like, I brought my boxing gloves from home. And
I need to share a part about that. So I was bringing 120, is it the 23 kg, whatever you guys say?
50 pounds.
50 pounds. Yeah. I was bringing one big wheelie bag over to America. And then I was literally said to my mum, I was like, no, wait, I have to fit my boxing gloves and pads.
Hilarious.
Like I have to. And she was like, I mean, you could just pay for another bag. It was like €70 for a second bag. And I was that adamant and they couldn't fit.
I didn't know you paid for a whole nother bag.
So I paid for a whole other bag and then I just brought a bunch more clothes as well. But I was so adamant that I had to bring these boxing gloves and pads.
Well, good thing you brought another bag because you never went back to Ireland.
No, seriously.
Spoiler. Anyway, so she makes this post and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I've literally been trying to find a place. So I just messaged her back and was like, hey, if somebody tells you there's one, let me know. And
hey,
then,
if you end up finding one, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she knew what she was doing. She was like, well, you know, I brought my mitts as well, so we could just do a workout. And I'm like, hey, you're speaking my language. So
I wanted to meet you in school to make sure you weren't a creep.
Yeah, so we hadn't met yet. Like this was just online in the Facebook thing.
Whatever.
So we're like, okay, she's like, well, let's meet at school. She wants to make sure I'm not a psychopath. And so we like say hi to each other, exchange numbers in school, probably like
it's so
a
funny.
3-minute interaction.
I'm like, do you have WhatsApp? He's like, yeah, I think we can iMessage too. I'm like, I know, but I use WhatsApp.
I didn't even know what WhatsApp was.
You didn't?
No, I didn't have a clue.
That's all Irish people use. We do not iMessage each other. So Blake now, the only way that we text is through WhatsApp.
Yeah, which is still so strange. But I
feel like it's more personal and private, and that's probably not true.
It's probably the opposite. Yeah, I had no idea what WhatsApp was. I had to download it and then get her number. So this is kind of just how everything got started. We exchanged numbers. I end up picking her up. We drive to a park and we like do this boxing workout. As cheesy as that sounds,
it was fantastic.
I held mitts for her, wrapped her arm, or
oh
wrapped
my goodness,
her hands.
you did. No, I think the second time you wrapped my hands, and I was like, he's touching me.
So it was like, could be a rom-com one day.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, so we do this.
Innocent.
We do this boxing workout, and like honestly, the rest was history. Like, I think we might have done that twice, and then I finally asked her out on a proper date. Our first date, we spend like 5 hours literally just sitting under, it's like a river and a bridge goes over it, sitting by the river, and we talked for 5 or 6 hours.
And we talked about everything. I think we were both at the stage where we knew the next one's the one we're marrying. Like, we're not messing around. Before that, God had said to me, I was like, why haven't I found the one? Like, where's my husband? And he said, he literally said, you pick them all. Let me pick the next one. Like, I knew that there was no messing around.
Yeah.
You'd been in a serious relationship. So had I, but they did not work. They completely failed. And we just knew the next one's the next one. We're not going to date someone for fun. So we literally decided on the first date to tell each other every single thing about my past. Yes, Irish people, he still married me. And you know I have a wild past. We literally decided, it was just like open and honest. Like, I'm not going to hide anything. Like, this is who I was. This is who I am now. My life has completely changed, but just so you're aware.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that was so cool was, like you said, we both had a failed relationship, and then we both spent like, it was literally almost around the same time, and then we both spent like a year and a half kind of healing, getting to know ourselves again, all that stuff. And then so when it was like, when you and I met, it was like two whole people are like, hey, this is what I want now. I know what I don't want.
100%.
And this is what I want. Are you good with that? Yeah, I'm good with that. Are you good with that?
It's kind of what I want too. Like,
so
it did just so happen that we really enjoyed a bunch of the same stuff, which is so strange.
So strange. For me, I mean, like I said, I barely even had a passport before we met.
You got one about 2 months before, because you knew you might need one to travel.
And now I'm on this date with this Irish girl. Like, my mind is just blown. And the fact that we're able to connect the way we are. So anyways, I'm all in after this first date. Like, this is crazy. Like, people would always be like, oh, when you know, you know. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not true. Like, you got to work at it and figure it out.
Can I just tell a funny story?
I guess.
He might not keep this in. But
what are you going to say?
We're under this bridge and there's no toilets like anywhere nearby. Goodness. Like, there's just no toilets. So Blake's like, literally it felt like we already knew each other. You might not have done this if it wasn't going this well, but you were like, I'm just going to like go over there and wee.
I started that.
Yes, you weed first. Is it
I don't remember.
Do you guys call it a wee?
No.
You went and peed?
Yeah, but wee probably is.
It's been nicer.
Better, yeah.
Blake went over and like, well, there's nowhere else to go, and we're there for 6 hours, and we're drinking.
Yeah.
You brought me to Starbucks. I was having like I don't know. You had a coffee, and I just had like
matter.
Whatever.
I had to pee really bad because we're sitting there, and we're by a river, so it's just making it worse.
So Blake goes to wee, and he comes back, and I'm like, all right, my turn. And he's literally like, what? I'm like, well, it's the same thing. I'm going to go pee too. I've been sitting here for 4 hours
She literally walks off and goes and squats in a bush on our first date.
It's fantastic.
I don't think anyone knows that part.
No, absolutely. Yeah. What are you going to do?
So, it's just like, that was right then. I was like, I'm going to marry this girl.
Oh my gosh.
No, I had to get past that. I'm just kidding. It was funny. So literally the first day, I'm like all in. Like,
yeah,
this is the girl I'm gonna marry. But internally, I'm like, I'm going crazy. There's no way you could know this fast. Like, do I love her? Like, these are the kind of the things I'm thinking, and I'm like,
that's what it felt like.
I'm like, hold on, Blake, you better slow down. Like, you just moved here.
He's a real follower, folks.
You just moved here. You've been here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Fair. You've known this girl for 1 week.
Yeah.
And now you want to marry her. So, like, this is the inner dialogue that's going along.
So this all happens the next day. I literally think we said, hey, let's meet up before school, make sure this was real.
Yeah.
Like, we literally might have said that.
I think
so we see each other. I think I went to your apartment or came to pick you up. We went straight to school. So here we are, like, walking in together, maybe in love. Suddenly we're kind of like a dating couple in a way, right? So we sit down. You can take over here, but we're in. Yeah, so in school.
So we're sitting together in school. Most people are standing up. Vicky and I sit down. We're holding hands, and like we just start praying together, and listening to the music. And again, in my head, I'm like, this is crazy that I feel this way. I'm already holding this girl's hand, and literally, I'm just like, God, can you just tell me that I'm not crazy? Like, can you just tell me that this is right?
I think you asked for a sign
Yeah,
that this was real.
Yeah, like, can you just show me something that like you're in this? Like, this is okay to feel all these things. As soon as I prayed that, I don't pray that out loud. I'm just saying it to myself. And as soon as I do that, I just get this picture in my imagination of a hand coming down and like stamping our hands together. And when they pull the stamp up, it stamps the word approved on our hands that we were holding together. So I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And like for reference, like this is kind of how I explain, like this is kind of how God talks to me. Is like God wants to use your imagination. And so like I get this picture after I ask, can you give me something?
Right.
Stamped approved, right? So
you turn to me.
So I turn to Vicky and she looks at me and she's like, did you get anything? Like, did God say anything to you? Which is like just her nature. And I was like, yeah, did you? And she was like, yeah, like we were holding hands and I just saw this picture of a hand coming down and stamping the word approved. And I'm just like, my mind is absolutely blown.
Yeah.
I'm like,
what? And
I don't think I even told you right then that I saw the same thing. Did I?
I don't know. You might have said.
I was like, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like,
it's exactly what he got.
It was literally the exact same picture she got. And I'm like, wow.
With the word approved.
Yeah, like I'm like, how is that even possible? And so I try to just play it cool. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got the same thing. So now I'm like in my head even more of like, okay, God, I feel like that was you. You just said you approved this relationship. You gave her the same thing. Wow. And you would think that would be like enough confidence of like, hey, this is right.
You would think.
But I'm still like, I can get in my head sometimes.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So I'm like, okay, that was crazy. But still.
Give me more.
These emotions, like I want to marry her yesterday. Next thing, I'm in my head still. God, can you just tell me like this is okay? And
well, you wanted another sign. You wanted him to say something
exactly.
else.
I just needed
more confirmation, more approved,
another
more
thing
whatever.
still in my head. So one night, this is backstory to where I'm going to get. One night, Vicky is like, it's starting to get cold in Northern California, and she's like, I just need a hot water bottle. And I'm like,
hang on. A hot water bottle.
Yeah.
They might not have understood you.
Well, I didn't understand you. I was like, what are you talking about?
A hot water bottle.
Hot water bottle. I'd never heard of it, seen it, didn't know what it was. And she's like, maybe we can just go to Walmart and find one. And I'm like, I still have no idea what you're talking about. We go to Walmart and she asks an employee at Walmart, which they're always super helpful. And they're like, a hot water bottle? Like there's some lukewarm ones on aisle 12.
That was amazing. I was like, oh, that's good. And then you were like, no, they mean like a bottle of water.
Yeah, like
water
literally
bottle.
What I thought. So I still don't know what this thing is. She finally like Googles it and shows me, and I'm like, it just looks like a whoopee cushion. Yeah. For Americans that don't know,
just Google it.
It basically looks like a whoopee cushion, and you fill it with hot water, and then you can put it on your stomach or your back, or
it's just cozy.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's a winter tradition.
This was the first time I'd ever heard of a hot water bottle. The next day, we're doing this exercise in our group at school. So there's like 1,200 students, and then they divide you into like groups of 30. So you're in a smaller group. The whole exercise is this. It's to help you hear God's voice, right? So they want you draw a name, and then you go and you ask God like for an object. And when you ask, like something will come to your mind in your imagination, right? And then you go a step further and you're like, okay, well, why did you give me that object for this person? Like I could have drawn Sheila. And let's say I pray and I just get a picture of a shoe. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean to them, God? Why did you tell me a shoe? And he's like, well, I want you to tell them that I love to walk with them. I want to direct their steps, and I'm asking them to take a big step of faith into something new.
Right.
Are you following me?
Fantastic example.
Yeah. So it just helps you hear God's voice in a creative way. Now, I'll tell you the hot water bottle thing. So I go in literally the next day, and we're doing this exercise. This girl gets up and she's like, "Oh, I drew Blake." So we have to go and stand up, and she's like red faced. And she's like, "I was so embarrassed to do this. I didn't even want to bring this thing to you because it's super weird. But when I prayed, I just pictured this pink hot water bottle." She was from like the Netherlands or something. She was like, "I literally brought this from home." And she's like, "I felt like I was supposed to give it to you." And I'm just like, no freaking way. First of all, I've never seen one in real life. And I'm like, what? And then she starts like, and the reason I felt like I'm supposed to give it to you is I feel like it's a symbol of like this thing is going to bring you comfort. It's going to bring healing to you. And like literally just start speaking to what Vicky will be for me in my life. Mm-hmm. And this like blew my mind. I'm sure you're listening and you're just like, no freaking way. And literally that's exactly how I was. I was like, no freaking way. I don't know what this thing is. Never saw one in real life. Never mentioned it to anybody. And now this girl the next day hands me her hot water bottle she brought. Like, it was so cool and so unbelievable that like God would care that much to do something like that for me, just to be like, hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'm leading you. Hey, I'm in this relationship.
I brought you Vicky.
Oh my gosh.
You guys are made for each other.
Yeah.
Like, here's the hot water bottle for her. Also, sweet. Thanks, God. Nice for me. I've literally don't know if I could have got one in America. So,
exactly.
So he walks in to the main service. He's finished his class. He walks back in, and his face, he's literally like, and he pulls it out of his bag and holds it up. And I'm like, where did you get that? That's my hot water. Like, I thought he went to buy it for innocent. Me. And he told me the story, and it was like, gosh, the joy, the peace, the excitement. Like, yeah. I'm like, is this enough, babe? Like, we are literally destined to be together. Yeah. Like, and you knew that. You just also thought it was crazy that like this could happen.
Well, I was just in my head. Yeah. So yeah, that was freaking wild. And honestly, from that, it was like, okay, we're getting married.
Yeah.
And then literally got engaged, married like maybe a month after or something crazy.
Possibly. Somewhere around there. It was just time and time again that God spoke to us. We'd had previous experiences when I was in Ireland and you were in Amarillo. Like, you know, we've been Christians our whole life. This is, you know, God has spoke to us. We've heard his voice, but it was just so sweet that he was in the relationship from the start, always talking to us about each other, always saying like, it's actually funny. Just one piece we forgot was about 3 days before Blake and I met, I decided to write a list of every single thing that I want in a husband. It is about a 6-minute email if I read it to you. And it was called My Power Man. And I wrote literally like one of the things was, I pray that after a stressful day, I'll come home and the bath will be running for me. I was so unbelievably specific. A strong man, but gentle, like literally just described everything I want. And then 3 days later, he brought me you. And you are every single thing times a billion of what I wrote. Like, that just shows that like, when you ask for something, you'll receive it. Like, God loves you. He cares for you. Like, he has the best for you. Yeah. When I finally gave it to him, like, I always knew one day, like all the girls back home know me so well. Like, I always had the faith, one day I'm going to find my man. Like, I'm going to. But when I let God get involved and brought me my right man, okay, he's got to bring me to America for it, but so be it. I would have traveled anywhere for you, baby.
So sweet. But I mean, to tie it back to the beginning of this podcast is like, this is how we believe it was supposed to be. Is like, we were created in the image of God. We were created to be in relationship with him. And it's not this religious constricting, you better do the right thing or else. It's like, it's freedom. It's freeing to be like, you know what? I don't know it all.
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah.
and you have somebody to go to that does know it all.
Well, Ephesians 3:20 like literally says that he will give us more than we could ever ask, imagine, or hope for.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he's done for me my whole life, that no matter what, I have had the hope and faith that everything's always going to be okay and get better. And that's what he promises us. And also kind of what helped me before is when I talked about in my story, like how we weren't created to live a life without him, but I felt this void my whole life. And then when I kind of gave everything to God and put all my faith back in him, that's when I stopped feeling empty and I felt complete. That's when I felt complete. But what helps me is I heard this story before. So if you bought a toy and the toy stopped working, it wouldn't work. It was broken. The lights weren't working. Like you couldn't even open the thing to put the batteries in because you couldn't even find it. Like it's just, there is no way that you're possibly going to be able to fix this. Mm-hmm. There's no instructions either. Well, who do you go to? You're going to probably try and call the person that made the toy.
Yeah.
Because the person who created the toy is going to know what it was used for. It's going to know what it was created for, what it was used for, what it was designed for, and just how it works.
That's good.
So if we're broken and we're not working and we're sad and we're lonely and we're deflated, we pull for all this stuff that's right in front of us, a new car, a new house, a new this, a new that, maybe a better job will fix it.
Yeah.
Why don't we go to our creator?
It's good.
God created us.
It's true. Yeah.
That's truth. He created us. He created me. He created you. He created all of us. So why don't we go and ask him, hey, if you're real, tell me. Like if someone's listening, like I want everyone to have their own experience. I had to have my own experience, which we didn't even tell in this story, which we'll get to. We can backtrack that far if people want us to, but are you real? Like, I think everyone listening should do that. Are you real? And show me.
Yeah. Like
show me you're real. Mm-hmm. Maybe you believe he created you, maybe you don't, but I would say a lot of people do, but you still want more. So I would for sure just encourage people to go there today. Like, okay, I like Vicky and Blake. They're not weird. They're not crazy, but they say you're real. So show me too.
Yeah.
I would really encourage that.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I would encourage anyone listening to do that without any preconceived thing that you might picture God being or what religion has told you. Like, you can actually just ask him.
Yeah.
Just like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
And it can be that casual. And I believe he'll speak back to you. Like, the truth is that this may sound super cheesy, but it's so true that God actually loves you so much. And God actually wants to be involved in every single detail of your life, down to the smallest thing.
Like a hot water bottle.
Yeah, like literally can use something that simple and funny to speak to our hearts and literally direct the rest of our life.
Yeah.
Literally, because of that, I was like, she's the one. Like, nobody could tell me she's not.
Right.
And now that we're married, nobody can tell me she's not.
Yeah.
Anytime, let's say our marriage is struggling or whatever, like I can always go back to that place of like, no, God, she's my hot water bottle. She's for me. Like it doesn't bring any room for doubt or anything else. Like this is the power of being in relationship with the Creator.
Right.
It gives you a confidence that nobody can shake.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you'll let us, maybe we'll do a part 2 on this, more just talking about identity, purpose. Yeah. So if he created us, then what are we created for? Mm-hmm. You know, we've got to really share that, how God is real and how he's been so real for us. But what's next? Here we are, and what's next? So I'm excited for that one too.
And also, like, when we started this podcast, we didn't want it to be a one-way.
Yes.
But that's not even a conversation. We want it to be dialogue. So please go to our Instagram, the Duff and Dax, DM us, whatever. We'll find the best way to chat. If you have questions, if you want to know more, please let us know. Like, we want this to be a dialogue. Yeah. So thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
See you next week.